he shot up the radio volume until the car shuddered.
And listen to him tell the story and put down true relaxation and knowledge.
We all jumped to the music and agreed. The purity of the road, the white line in the middle of the highway unrolled and hugged our left front tire as if glued to our groove. And Neil hunched his muscular neck, t-shirted in the winter night, and blasted the car along. And he insisted I drive through Baltimore for traffic practice. That was all right, except he and Mary Lou insisted on steering while they kissed and fooled around. It was crazy. And the radio was on full blast. And Neil beat drums on the dashboard till a great big sag developed in it. Yeah, I did it too. That poor Hudson, the slow boat to China, was receiving her beating.
Oh man, what kicks! Now, Mary Lou, listen really, honey. You know that I'm hot rock capable of anything at the same time, and I have unlimited energy. Now, in San Francisco, we must go on living together. I know just the right place for you. At the end of the regular chain gang run, I'll be home just a cut hair less than every 2 days, and for 12 hours at a stretch. And man, you know what I can do for 12 hours, darling. Meanwhile, I'll go right on living at Carolyn's like nothing. See, she won't know. We can work it out. We've done it before.
It was all right with Mary Lou. She was really out for Carolyn's scalp. The understanding had been that Mary Lou would switch to me in Frisco, but I now began to see that they were going to stick, and I was going to be left out on my own at the end of the continent. But why think about that now, when all the golden lands ahead of you and all kinds of unforeseen events wait, lurking to surprise you and make you glad you're alive to see them? Woo. All right. Okay, so have we lost John?
Yeah, I think so.
He's wandered off. All right. Well, John missed a shot.
Can we go find him?
Yeah, I suppose.
Probably not for him.
All right, you can try that. But can't even jump to that.
I think I get to rest here.
Huh?
I think I get to rest here.
Okay, you want to do that? You want to rest?
I'm trying to read my
Okay,
directions.
you go rest.
Yeah.
Just go sit down. John's missing. I'll do something quick from here.
Okay, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Cassidy's wandered off.
Cassidy would do that. He would wander off.
You also
Sometimes you wouldn't see him for days, and he'd come back and it was like he'd seen it 3 seconds ago. He would finish the sentence.
You also told me that he was bogey before there was a Bogart.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That he knew everybody loved listening to him talk, so he would stand there with the joint and just keep talking and telling the story and smoking.
There was a term that became popular in the 60s called multi-coupling, and I think that it was derived from his behavior in a circle of people passing joints around. He'd take it, he'd start to pass it, and then he'd take it back and say something more about his story. Then he'd start to pass it, and he'd take it back, and he'd take another hit. And then he'd take another hit, and then he'd tell the story some more, and he'd hold it over here, and then, because it's coming this way, and then he'd start to hold it out, and then he'd stop, and he'd take another hit, and he'd tell another story. And finally, he'd pass it on after about 4 hits, and he would do that almost invariably if the joint was going around the circle.
Okay, so what we're going to do is just sort of flip some of these solo performances, and this is a great honor. You guys are going to love this. I've known Jerry for, well, in person only for about 5 years, but other ways a lot longer than that. And every time I ever see this guy, he's being the MC and the host and the gracious host and when I was downstairs, if you come out of the bathroom downstairs, there's this picture of him howling on a stage. And it's like, I've never seen this guy do that. So I was like, Jerry, you got to come and howl. So now we're going to have Jerry Chimino come and howl in person.
Howl? Well, I'm not going to howl tonight because howl's a really long poem, as we all know. What I'm going to do is read one of my favorites of Allen. We're going to mix it up a little bit. Allen Ginsberg. If you haven't seen that new Netflix Dylan thing, oh my God, Allen's all over that documentary. And the piece I'm going to read is called America. Familiar with it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
for those of you who aren't, see what's similar to today. America, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing. America, $2.27, January 17, 1956. I can't stand my own mind. America, when will we end the human war? Go fuck yourself with your atom bomb. I don't feel good. Don't bother me. I won't write my poem till I'm in my right mind. America, when will you be angelic? When will you take off your clothes? When will you look at yourself through the grave? America, when will you be worthy of your million Trotskyites? America, why are your libraries full of tears? America, when will you send your eggs to India? I'm sick of your insane demands. When can I go into the supermarket and buy what I need with my good looks? America, after all, it is you and I who are perfect, not the next world. Your machinery is too much for me. You made me want to be a saint. There must be some other way to settle this argument. Burroughs is in Tangier. I don't think he's coming back. It's sinister. Are you being sinister, or is this some form of a practical joke? I'm trying to come to the point. I refuse to give up my obsession. America, stop pushing. I know what I'm doing. America, the plum blossoms are falling. I haven't read the newspapers for months. Every day somebody goes on trial for murder. America, I feel sentimental for the Wobblies. America, I used to be a communist when I was a kid. I'm not sorry. I smoke marijuana every chance I get. I sit in my house for days on end, and I stare at the roses in the closet. When I go to Chinatown, I get drunk, and I never get laid. My mind is made up. There's going to be trouble. You should have seen me reading Marx. My psychoanalyst thinks I'm perfectly right. I won't say the Lord's Prayer. I have mystical visions and cosmic vibrations. America, I still haven't told you what you did to Uncle Max when he came over from Russia. I'm addressing you. Are you going to let your emotional life be run by Time magazine? I'm obsessed by Time magazine. I read it every week. Its cover stares at me every time I slink past the corner candy store. I read it in the basement of the Berkeley Public Library. It's always telling me about responsibility. Businessmen are serious. Movie producers are serious. Everybody's been serious but me. It occurs to me that I am America, and I'm talking to myself again. Asia is rising against me. I haven't got a Chinaman's chance. I'd better consider my national resources. My national resources consist of 2 joints of marijuana, millions of genitals, and unpublishable private literature that goes 1,400 miles an hour, and 25,000 mental institutions. I say nothing of my prisons, nor children in cages along the border, nor the millions of underprivileged who live in my flower pots under the light of 500 suns. I've abolished the poorhouses of France. Tangiers is next to go. My ambition is to be president, despite the fact that I'm a Catholic. America, how can I write a holy litany in your silly mood? I'll continue like Henry Ford. My strophes are as individual as his automobiles, more so because they're all different sexes. America, I'll sell you my strophes for $2,500 a piece, 500 down on your old strophe. America, free Tom Mooney. America, save the Spanish loyalists. America, Sacco and Vanzetti must not die. America, I am the Scottsboro Boys. America, when I was 7, Mama took me to the communist cell meetings. They sold us garbanzos a handful per ticket. A ticket cost a nickel and the speeches were free. Everybody was angelic and sentimental about the workers. It was also sincere. You have no idea what a good thing the party was in 1835. Scott Nearing was a grand old man, a real mensch. Mother Bloor made me cry. I once saw Israel Amter plain. Everybody must have been a spy. America, you don't really want to go to war. America, it's them bad Russians. It's them Russians and Chinamen, and them Russians. The Russia wants to eat us alive. The Russia's power mad. She wants to take our cars out of our garages. Her wants to grab Chicago. Her needs a Red Reader's Digest. Her wants our auto plants in Siberia. America, this is quite serious. America, this is the impression I get from looking in the television set. America, is this correct? I'd better get right down to the job. It's true, I don't want to join the army or turn lathes in precision parts factories. I'm nearsighted and psychopathic anyway. America, I'm putting my queer shoulder to the wheel. Thank you.
Well done, Jerry. Awesome.
Well, that was a great treat for all of us. I love that. Jerry Chimino, everybody. All right. Yeah, that's it. We're on now, George. You're back up. Hinkle's party is on. All right. So Al Hinkle, who was just a great guy, and he just recently passed, unfortunately, and he was certainly part of the Beat Museum family, and had come here many, many times. And oh boy, we had fun, and boy, he was big too. He was. So I asked him one time how tall he was, and he said 6'5" and a half. But that he didn't cheat and say he was five. What would it be? 6'6". He didn't say 6'6". But he wanted that half an inch.
He was bigger than 6'5". 11 is more than 10.
So I loved Al, and so did Jack and Neil actually. Oh, and he was also an incredible storyteller. That history doesn't really know that, but if you ever got to spend time with him, he could sure spin a tale. And so,
And would.
and when you think about that, the car, like you've got Kerouac the novelist, you got Cassidy the talker, and you think, oh boy, that should have been exciting to be with those two in that car. Well, Al Hinkle, the third guy in the band, could hold his own with those two cats with his storytelling. It was amazing. So, and Jack never really captured that in the books. But that thing where in that last page,
he may not have come to it until later in life.
Maybe.
I didn't. I wasn't telling stories
when you were in your 20s.
No, or even 30s or 40s. I started telling stories much later in life.
I wonder if that was the case.
He could have been that way too.
I like the part where in that one of those last pieces we did, we'll put Al by the window because he'll block the wind. Because he really was that big of a guy.
He wasn't just big; he was big.
Okay, so here's a great part in On the Road where they go to a party at Al Hinkle's house one afternoon. We were sitting around on this sunny afternoon towards supper time when Neil pulled up in front in his jalopy and jumped out in a tweed suit with vest and watch chain.
Hup, hup,
I heard out on the street. He was with Roy Johnson, who just returned from Frisco with his wife Dorothy and was living in Denver again. And so were Al Hinkle and Helen and Tom Snark, and everybody was in Denver again. And I went out on the porch.
Well, my boy,
said Neil, sticking out his big hand.
I see everything is all right on this end of the stick. Hello,
he said to everybody.
Oh, yes, Tim Gray, Sam Shepard, how do you do?
And we introduced him to Charity.
Oh, yes, how do you do? This is my friend Roy Johnson here, was so kind as to accompany me. Fee, gad, gav, measure hoople, sir.
He said, sticking out his hand to Tom, who just stared at him.
Yes. Well, Jack, old man, what's the story? When do we take off for Mexico? Tomorrow afternoon? Fine. Yeah, man, now, Jack, I have exactly 16 minutes to make it to Al Hinkle's house, where I am about to recover my old railroad watch, which I can pawn on Larimer Street before closing time. Meanwhile, buzzing very quickly and thoroughly as time allows to see if my old man, by chance, may be in Jig's Buffet or some of the other bars, and then I have an appointment with the barber Doll always told me to patronize, and I have not myself changed over the years and continue with that policy. At 6 o'clock, sharp, hear me, I want you to be right here when I'll come buzzing by to get you for one quick run to Roy Johnson's house, play Gillespie and assorted bop records for an hour of relaxation prior to any kind of further evening you and Tim and Stan and Babe may have planned for the night, irrespective of my arrival, which incidentally was exactly 45 minutes ago in my old 37 Ford, which you see parked out there. I made it together with a long pause in Kansas City, seeing my cousin.
And saying all these things, he was busy changing from his suit coat to his t-shirt and pouring a beer in his back pocket in the living room alcove, and just out of sight of everyone and transferring his watch from one pair of pants to them. Then he got out of the same battered trunk and Inez, I asked, what's happening in New York?
Officially, Jack, this trip is to get a Mexican divorce, cheaper and quicker than any other kind. I have Carolyn's agreement at last, and everything is straight, everything is fine, everything is lovely, and we know that we're now not worried about a single thing, don't we, Jack?
Well, okay. I don't know if Carolyn's really going along with this. I was ready to follow Neil, and so we all just bustled to a new set of plans and arranged a big night, and it was an unforgettable night. There was a party at Al Hinkle's brother's house, and two of his other brothers are bus drivers, you see, and they sat there in awe of everything that went on. And there was a lovely spread on the table, cakes, drinks, red wine, and Al looked happy and prosperous. Well, are you all set with Helen now, I asked him.
Yes, sir.
Say
I am sure. I'm about to go to Denver, you know, me and Roy.
Really? Well, what are you going to take up there?
Oh, sociology and all that field. Say, Neil just gets crazier every year, don't he?
He sure does. And Helen Hinkle was there, and she was trying to talk to somebody, but Neil held the whole floor. And he stood and performed before Shepard and Tim and Babe and myself, who all sat side by side in kitchen chairs along the wall. And Al Hinkle hovered nervously behind him. His poor brother was thrust into the background.
Hop, hop!
Neil was saying, tugging at his shirt, rubbing his belly, jumping up and down.
Yes, well, we're all together now, and the years have rolled severally behind us, and yet, you see, none of us have really changed. That's what's so amazing, the durability. In fact, to prove that, I have here a deck of cards, which I can tell very accurate fortunes of sorts.
It was the Dirty Pictures deck. Dorothy Johnson and Roy Johnson sat stiffly in the corner. It was a mournful party. And then Neil suddenly grew quiet and sat in a kitchen chair between Stan and me and stared straight ahead with rocky, dog-like wonder and paid no attention to anybody. And he simply disappeared for a moment to gather up more energy. If you touched him, he would sway like a boulder suspended on a pebble on the precipice of a cliff. And he might come crashing down or just sway rock-like. And then the boulder exploded into a sunflower and his face lit up in a lovely smile, and he looked around like a man waking up and said,
Ah, look at all the nice people sitting here with me. Isn't it nice, Jack? Why, like I was telling Min just the other day, yes.
And he got up and went across the room, hand outstretched to one of the bus drivers in the party.
How do you do? My name is Neil Cassidy. Yes, I remember you well. Is everything all right? Well, look at the lovely cake. Oh, can I have some? Just me and miserable me?
Al's sister said yes.
Oh, how wonderful. People are so nice. Cakes and pretty things set out on the table, and all for the sake of wonderful little joys and delights. Yes, excellent, splendid, yeah.
And he stood swaying in the middle of the room, eating his cake and looking around behind him, and everything amazed him, everything he saw. And people talked in groups all around the room, and he said,
Yes, that's right.
And a picture on the wall made him stiffen to attention. And he went up and looked closer, and then he backed up and he stooped and he jumped up and he wanted to see it from all possible levels and angles, and he tore at his t-shirt in exclamation, "Damn." He had no idea of the impression he was making and cared less. People were now beginning to look at Neil with maternal and paternal affection glowing in their faces. Neil was finally an angel, as I always knew he would become.
Neil Cassidy in the person of George Walker.
Jack Kerouac in the person of Brian Hassett.
Okay, so now we are going to, where did this go? How you doing, Johnny?
Could I say a few words?
Yeah. Okay, do you want to come up right now?
Well, thank
Okay, all right. It looks like Johnny's coming up right now.
Yay. Listen, you guys are great. I love your renditions of Neil and Jack. I'm telling you, you blow my mind.
Great.
But for me, excuse me, no, I'm not sniffing cocaine. You guys are so good at portraying, Jack and Neil, that I really have to tell you that I love you for that. But
Thank you.
you want a Neil story?
Yeah.
Well, see, my dad was the kind of guy that you couldn't, predict, if you will. And for example, I mean, I've got hundreds of examples, but I remember once I'm sitting at the bus stop, right, on the corner.
Speak up, please.
No, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, just stand closer.
Okay, so, I'm in, I don't know, 8th grade or something, or whatever, I'm 15 or whatever. And I'm sitting at the bus stop and there's a few, little girls behind me and stuff. And I hear this screeching noise. And I went, uh-oh. In other words, I knew who it was. And Dad's in a 58 Ford Fairlane station wagon, and he's turning the corner on the, he's like four-wheel drift, and I'm going, oh, I know who this is, it's my dad. And he screeches to a stop, and he goes, "Hey, Johnny, what are you doing?" I'm waiting for the school bus. And he looks in his rearview mirror, and there's every cop. No, this is the Blues Brothers movie. I'm telling you, I think they got this from my story. I think they wrote the script from my story about this, because there's every cop on the West Coast after my dad. I'm talking Santa Clara, CHP, but see, he screeched to a halt, and he goes, "Hi, Johnny, what are you doing?" "Oh, waiting for the school bus." And he looks in his rearview mirror, and he goes, "Gotta go." So I got a cold. So we roars down the street, because my parents' house were just a quarter block away. And I'm telling you, every cop car in the world, it was the Blues Brothers. I think they got that script from my story, because I'm just sitting at the bus stop, right? And he goes, "Gotta go." And there was CHP, San Jose Police, there was Santa Clara, they're, and I'm going, holy, I don't know to this day I don't know what he did wrong. Why? But it must have been something good.
Do you want to do the go-kart story? Do you want to do the go-kart story? Either tell it or read it?
Oh.
The go-kart story?
No, yeah, I'll tell it.
Okay.
I think I remember.
It's in here, but
Oh, see, yeah, this is my short book.
these are for sale downstairs too. These are Johnny's stories, and he'll sign the hell out of them for you. And there's one of my favorite stories. I don't know.
No.
What?
Talk to me.
Is the go-kart story when about him and his neighbors and a go-kart? Do you want to
No,
read it?
sure. Sure. No,
Okay.
you know what happened was, a friend of mine had a go-kart, but it was parked in this garage in his parents' house, and
The mic is a little.
no, I got it. So my dad he said, go-kart? And I go, yeah, Well, what we did was we stole it. We stole it out of the guy's garage, my friend. And Dad, I'll call him Neil or Dad or Pops or, whatever. He got in that thing. And he just, the parents came home and they found this, adult man racing their kid's go-kart. It didn't look good. And he's going, he stood up and he's going like, he's pointing at me. Like, he said it was okay, We stole the go-kart from this garage. And he's going like this, and the parents are going like, here's a grown man racing a go-kart down there. There's a cul-de-sac at the end of it, and you could spin it out, and like my dad, motor cars were his life, and it was my fault because I said, hey, I know this kid with a go-kart, and he wanted to try it. My mother wrote this great image of him with his knees up over the steering wheel, steering the go-kart down this cul-de-sac. Anyway, yeah, we got busted. But he used to take me to the auto races, and every Friday night he'd take me to San Jose Speedway, right? And it was a quarter-mile midget races. Okay. Can I? No, that's all right. I'll just eat the mic. I'll just eat the mic. So he would take me to these auto races every Friday night, and he goes, "We're gonna go see the midgets race." I thought they were little people, Offenhausers, Indy cars, right? No, they were midget cars, with regular guys. And I'm gonna go see midgets race, Offenhauser, Indy cars. No. Anyway, so he would take me, and he would get so excited about the racers. There's a quarter-mile track in San Jose, and he would start nudging me in the elbow. I mean, because he got so excited about it, like, who's the person? Here he comes, and you get him wing, it's like whoever that. I'm going, okay, Dad. I just wanted 25 cents to go get a ice cream sandwich. But he was maniacal about these, midget car races, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, but it's funny. Sorry, but I got a cold. My mom would go see, we're about to go to the braces, Friday night. And my dad liked to smoke reefer, all right? I don't even smoke anymore, believe me or not. Nobody believes me. You're Neil Cassidy's son. Well, this shit is too strong nowadays. It's like a drug. You know what I mean? I'm telling you, it's like, no,
It ain't the muggles and the illich that these guys were smoking in the ditchweed in the 40s.
I'm telling you, it's like I can't even go
And
there.
some of you guys are growers, and like growing is a big thing nowadays. Old Neil here, I got that for you, buddy.
Oh.
Give a good honk on that. Neil would, back in the 40s, these guys would grow pot in the backyard. And when they got the place in Los Gatos, they were trying to blend into the neighborhood. And old Neil, this is another sort of fallacy of him and you can always tell people who actually knew Neil versus people who just knew the myth. Some people would say, oh, Neil was this great mechanic and he could fix anything. He couldn't fix a toaster. And, and he would always get these deals on cheap cars, like for $5 or whatever back in those days. And because he was sure he could fix the thing up. And so he just filled their house up, the front lawn, with all of these old jalopies until the point where they had to get the city actually like complained and had to.
The neighbor girl called him on it, and the record was 18 cars, 18 cars, and she goes, looks like a house, it's a high class neighborhood.
It wasn't bad, yeah. But the pot thing. So they used to. So he was. So imagine these guys who know, everything that we know about growing pot now and lights and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, it's a science now. It's
totally. And so these guys were just popping their seeds in the backyard of the house in Los Gatos, out behind the woods, kind of thing. And your mom tells a story about like one time the cops came. How did this go? Like the cops came by for something on the street, and Neil was like to Carolyn, "Get back there and clean the car." And she thought, why does he want me to do the gardening while the police are here?
It's one plant, for Christ's sake. Now, it's legal. It's like, they have brand names for the pot now, like Killer Silver, or, you know what I mean? I went to Amsterdam, and I
We
couldn't.
were there together. That was us. That was
No,
our.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Must have been pretty good news.
And remember, it was raining, and we wanted to go into the Heineken, and it was closed.
Yeah, so we went to Vondel Park instead, and
Yeah.
had our Heinekens in Vondel Park.
I remember, my mind's, kind of like, it's all that clean living I did in the 60s. So my memory is a little bit.
I think this is actually in this book somewhere. Oh yeah, there it is, right there, John. That was the time in Amsterdam. These guys had never really. You were talking about the storytelling and how you didn't do that when you were younger. These guys, John and Carolyn, had never appeared together on a stage ever until that trip in Amsterdam in '99. And this book has got some pictures in it and some stories in it and stuff. But that was really fun. That was when you guys kind of had the birth of your kind of collaboration on stage.
Well, she was already living in London, but who was it? A New York Times? No, it was
High Times? Yeah.
High Times. They called me, and they said, we want Carolyn Cassidy. We're doing this whole thing, inducting her into the.
Inducting Neil.
Yeah, into the and Jack and Alan.
Right.
And I said, well, she's right here.
Well, and she didn't want to do it because she's not like an advocate for drugs or anything. And she was like, I'm not going to do the High Times magazine. Are you kidding me?
I go, Mom, they're giving you a 5-star hotel.
They're paying for it.
Yeah.
She reconsidered.
First class, and I'm across the river in the 4-star. I said, no, she said, I want my son to come. And they're going, and she said, I'm not going without my son.
Nice. That's
Right.
nice.
It's cool.
She was.
So she put me across they put me, across the canal in a 4-star.
We were in the same hotel. Oh, this is so
Oh,
funny.
that's right.
This is so funny. They had a 420 party every 420 a.m. and p.m. So John, so there's this lobby in this hotel, and then John's on the second floor and I'm on the third floor, and so the next Saturday morning or something, we go for lunch and something, and he goes, "Did you have a ton of people over at your room last night in the middle of the night?" I was like, "No." And then so that happens, and the day goes on, and then the next day happens, and 420